Good morning. My name is Brett Stevens. I am the discipleship pastor here. Today we're in the last sermon in this series, Unexpected, overcoming the challenges that no one expects, but everyone experiences. And so this is the last week of the series. I don't know if you guys realize this, but next week starts Advent, so we're getting close to Christmas. Some people in our staff have been celebrating Christmas for the entire month of November, but so our coming sermon series, we're really excited about this one. It is Who Needs Christmas? And we got a slide. Yeah, here it is. Who needs Christmas? I don't know if you've ever thought about this question. Christmas is a time that a lot of people look forward to, but why? Why do we need it? Who is Christmas for? And that's something that we're going to look at in the coming weeks after this sermon series. So we're really excited about that. Today, though, the challenge that we experience is this summed up in this word, emptiness. Emptiness. There's something missing. You know, when Lydia and I moved to Angola, I started working at the Potawatomi Inn. I was working second shift. So Lydia was working first shift. I was working second. We got to have an hour lunch together there, or supper rather, before we parted ways. And she took care of the kids while I went and worked. And we did that for about 3 years. And at the same time, I was going to seminary down in Winona Lake. And we were going to a church. And during this time, I just kept telling God, I'm ready. I've gone to school for this. I'm ready to be in ministry. I'm ready to have time to dedicate to a church rather than spending all my time just, working so that I can attend a church. And so the opportunity came up for me to start pastoring a small United Methodist church down in Garrett. And I was so excited. I was thrilled that finally the thing that I've spent all this time preparing and going to seminary and learning and studying all came together. And Lydia will tell you, my first Sunday there, I was ecstatic, bouncing off the walls, if you can, as much as I can. But a few weeks into it, or a few months maybe, there was this kind of, this struggle that I had, because this is the thing that I had been working and striving for, and I was so excited about. And here I was, day to day, week to week, preparing a sermon to preach every week and doing Bible study. And it was kind of a feeling of, well, now what? I've had this goal for so long, and I finally arrive, and everything that I had expected, I don't know what I expected, but now I just had to live out my days doing the thing that I thought I'd worked so hard for. And I suspect you've probably had something similar. Some goal, some dream, some aspiration that you worked so hard for, and you arrived, and you were a little let down. There can be almost this feeling, right, that it's better to have the goal than to arrive at the goal. Because as long as you've got the goal, you've got something to motivate you and something to inspire you forward. But once you get there, where do you go from there? It's a challenge. And maybe the goal wasn't something like what I had. It wasn't like landing the dream job. Maybe for you the goal was to meet the right person, to get the right relationship. Maybe your goal was to have children. Maybe your goal was to land that dream job position, the title. Maybe it was something that you're working so you can have enough money to do this vacation, to do this trip, to go see this person. Whatever it was, right? We have these goals in life, but there's almost a sense in which we're trying to fill something. We're trying to satisfy ourselves. And these things never pan out the way we thought they would. Well, might not surprise you to hear, this has kind of been the theme of the sermon series, that this is not a new problem. That for as long as people have been around, they have struggled with this feeling of something missing inside. You see, we're going to be reading this part of this ancient document that we call Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is a really interesting book. If you've never read it, you might be a little surprised to find it in the Bible. But we're gonna pull some parts out of this, and the name Ecclesiastes is the sort of Greek equivalent of the Hebrew name of the book. And the Hebrew name, this is not going to be a test, but just some of you guys are interested in this kind of stuff. The Hebrew name of the book is Kohelet. Kohelet. So that is a word that means a person who gathers other people together. Assembler, gatherer, kind of, that's the idea of it. And so the reason it's called that is because the person who wrote the book identifies themselves as Kohelet. Or most translations will say the teacher. But there's this unnamed person who implies that they were King Solomon, wrote this book describing their search for meaning in life. And here is their conclusion. Well, they lead with their conclusion. So here it is, the beginning of Ecclesiastes. These are the words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher. Completely meaningless. There, that's going to inspire you all now, ready to go out from here. And no, so you may have felt the same thing. When I was in high school, I felt the same thing. I was in band, I was working hard, getting good grades, I had a job on the side, normal high school stuff. And somewhere through all this, I kind of said, what is the point? What am I doing with my life? I don't know. This doesn't seem to have any meaning. And you may have felt the same thing. Meaningless. What am I doing? I'm going to work until I die? And what is the point of life? So if you've struggled with this question, you've tried to come up with something to give your life meaning. What can I aim for? What can I strive for? And the teacher did the same thing. So what are some of the things that you might have found to try to fill the emptiness, to fill the hole, the longing for something more? Well, here's what the teacher did. I devoted myself to search for understanding and to explore by wisdom everything done under heaven. I soon discovered that God had dealt a tragic existence to the human race. I observed everything going on under the sun, and really, it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind. I said to myself, look, I am wiser than any of the kings who ruled in Jerusalem before me. I have greater wisdom and knowledge than any of them. So I set out to learn everything from wisdom to madness and folly. But I learned firsthand that pursuing all of this is like chasing the wind. The greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. To increase knowledge only increases sorrow. Yeah, I know, you can see that the trajectory of this sermon is very hopeful. So you may have been like the teacher. That an aspiration to study, to learn, to grow, to develop a new skill, something to expand your mind and your abilities in order to find a purpose, to study and learn and grow and develop. And yet, like the teacher, you may have discovered that the more you know, the more deeply you understand and reflect on the world. In some ways, the more challenging it is to find purpose because you have a greater sense of this sort of complex problem, the challenges of life and the struggle that you have to develop yourself and to find meaning. It can feel cyclical and pointless. And so often, I read a lot of philosophy in college. If you've ever read philosophers, they are, by and large, a really depressing bunch of people. The outlook that people develop when they think really deeply about complex problems tends to make them just kind of sad, disappointed, frustrated. Knowing more information rarely makes you look at a situation and just feel happier about it. You look at it and you see all of these complexities and these shades of grays, and it can feel paralyzing and frustrating. But it is something that people do to try to find meaning and make sense of their life, to learn something new. But perhaps you went a different route, as the teacher tried something else. And he said, I said to myself, come on, let's try pleasure. Let's look for the good things in life. But I found that this too was meaningless. So I said, laughter is silly. What good does it do to seek pleasure? After much thought, I decided to cheer myself with wine, and while still seeking wisdom, I clutched at foolishness. In this way, I tried to experience the only happiness most people find during their brief life in this world. So that sounds really derogatory, but the point that he's saying is, rather than trying to be really heady and intellectual, he said, let's just go out and party, have some fun, don't worry about life. But no matter what he tried, no matter what fun thing he did, no matter how he entertained himself, he still kept coming back to this empty feeling inside. And this is the story for many people who, especially younger people going through high school and into college, it's often time when you let loose and go out and party and do fun things and try new things. And many of you, that may be your story. And yet here you are, walking away from that life and still saying there's something missing. I went and I had my fun and just can't shake the feeling that there's something more to life. If drinking and partying and clubbing and dancing and all, if that's all there is to life, that just isn't satisfying me. So like the teacher, you look for something else. And so this is something else that he tried. I also tried to find meaning by building huge homes for myself, by planting beautiful vineyards. I made gardens and parks, filling each of them with all kinds of fruit trees. I built reservoirs to collect the water to irrigate my many flourishing groves. I bought slaves, both men and women, and others were born into my household, and I also owned large herds and flocks, more than any of the kings who had lived in Jerusalem before me. I collected great sums of silver and gold, the treasure of many kings and provinces. I hired wonderful singers, both men and women, and had many beautiful concubines. I had everything a man could desire. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless. Like chasing the wind, there was really nothing worthwhile anywhere. And so perhaps like the teacher, you have dedicated yourself to a career, to a job, to a goal, to a task, to collecting stuff, getting the highest paycheck, the fun new things that you can try, building a big house and living on the lake and having a boat and going out and whatever the thing is, the stuff that will make you happy. It's more, it's bigger, it's better. But no matter how much more you get, no matter how much bigger it is, no matter how much better it is, you just can't shake the feeling that there's got to be something else. You just can't satisfy that hole inside. And so we're left with this question. If everything in the world we think will make us happy doesn't, what do we do? What do we do? This is the question. The question, the root of this question is, how do I fill the emptiness? Well, The answer, since you're here in church, may not surprise you, but there's a surprising angle to this. You see, there is something that Tony has started saying that comes up on our slides, that he's said from time to time, that is the answer to this. But it has kind of a double meaning, and so, if you read it before, maybe you haven't seen it from this angle. So the thing that Tony has started saying is this: live fully in Jesus. Live fully in Jesus. Now, the typical reading of that statement would be to live wholly, completely, entirely, as in go all in. I'm going to commit fully. But there's another meaning. Live fully in Jesus, as in live full. Your life is filled. That whole is filled by living fully in Jesus. And you say, okay, that's a great slogan. There's a great catchphrase, Brett, but how? What does that look like? Well, to live fully in Jesus, you have to die fully to yourself. This is the corollary point. These two cannot be separated. Living fully in Jesus is the same as dying fully to self, dying fully to yourself. But I didn't make this idea up. You see, our teacher, not the teacher from Ecclesiastes, but our teacher, Jesus, said these exact words to us. Here's how he put it. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. It's in the verse. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. You see, in Jesus' call, when he says, come and follow me, he says, die to yourself. Take up your cross, this instrument of death and execution. Pick it up and follow me, dying to yourself, so you can live a life that is full, fulfilled, satisfied. Not a life that's easy. Not a life that's always happy, but a life that's full. And you see, the astounding thing is that the time that he was telling this to, the time that this was going on, the people that he told this to a man, died early. Except maybe one. The story of John is a complicated one, but every other one of them followed him to their literal physical death. And that's the astounding thing about it. Today, most of us aren't being called to do that. Most of us will never experience martyrdom. But still, we can die to ourselves. What does that look like? What does that practically mean? How do we die to ourselves? You see, dying to ourselves means we change our focus, our priority. It is easy for your spiritual life to be an add-on, to be a part of your life, but not your commitment, not your priority. The call to die to self means you change your priorities. You say, I will become less. He will become more. Whatever it takes to follow him, whatever it takes to do what God is asking of me, I will do it. So this may mean dying to your schedule. That you say, the things that I'm doing, the way that I fill my time, the goals that I have, the priorities that I set, must change if I will die to myself. Can we pull up the slide here? I've got the list of things. It might mean dying to your finances. That is that you sacrifice financially. That you give to other people who are in need. That you give to causes, to purposes. An example of this not long ago. We had a pile of boxes up here, as many of you chose to die to yourself so that others could know the love of Jesus. That's an example of dying to your finances. It changes your habits, your priorities, and your spending. It might mean dying to your goals. When I was in high school, I told you about the sense that I had this emptiness, and so at that time, I had said, well, young people, you got to pick a goal. You got to have a job you're going to work for. So maybe I'll be a teacher. I'll go teach band or something. I love band. When I encountered Jesus, I said, I still want to teach, but what could be more meaningful to teach than the Word of God? And so, off I went to go into ministry, having no idea what that meant, but dying to your goals. It meant changing what I was aiming for. It was no longer about what will make me happy, what will make me feel fulfilled, what will make me the most money. What can I do to serve my King? Dying to my goals. It might mean dying to your friendships. And this is a strange one, but here's what I mean. In the pursuit of living like Jesus, Lydia and I have found ourselves sometimes surrounded by people who are very different than the normal people they would hang out with, in a way that can feel uncomfortable. To be around people that think so differently, that feel so differently, that live so differently, that talk so differently. But we pursue friendships with those people because those are the people that God loves so deeply, and some of them are very far away from Him. And we'll never change their lives by handing them a tract or wagging our finger and telling them how much of a sinner they are. That is a message they will only hear when they hear it from somebody who loves them so deeply. And so we have died to our friendships to follow Jesus. It may mean dying to your pride, doing things that you would consider beneath you, humbling yourself, doing things that are uncomfortable, outside of your usual sphere of activity, doing things that you're not good at. And the list could go on, but this is to give you a sense of what does it mean practically? How do I really, truly die to myself? Fundamentally, what is at issue is who's in charge. Who directs the course of your life? Who determines what your goals and your plans and your aims are? How do you make your decisions? What guides your life? To die to yourself means you say, I will go where you send me. I will do what you ask of me, no matter how hard. And it sounds contradictory to say, to live your fullest life, you have to give up your comforts, your joys, your pleasures, your aims, your goals. You have to change these things and pursue only what God is calling you to. It sounds contradictory. But if you have strived and struggled, sweat, bled, and cried, trying to fill the emptiness in your soul, then you know that this is true. That nothing else will fill you. So I leave you with this question. Are you ready to live? But know this, that here's the real question, hidden behind this question. Are you ready to die? Let me pray for you. God in heaven, only you are big enough to fill this emptiness inside. So, dear Lord, will you come and fill us? Take away our pain and striving and frustration. Take away our pursuing after empty goals that don't satisfy. Call us to yourself, to a life that is full. Will you break down our pride so that we can answer this call and step forward into the best that you have for us. As a church and as individuals. We ask this in the dear name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.